Yo, what's going on, CZN fam? I'm Sue, and yesterday you may or may not have seen this video show up in your feed. It was my tier list discussing the best 5-star combatants and partners to take with your selector for the half anniversary event of Chaos Zero Nightmare. When they first announced those selectors, they said that it would only contain the base 5 stars that were in the character's roster at launch. So there was only going to be 10 5-star combatants and 10 5-star partners. And, you know, I did the video, it was great, and then I woke up this morning and the director was like, you know what? That's not good enough. Let's make it so that the entire roster is available on these selectors with a couple of caveats. So now, the selectors for the half anniversary have been updated. They now contain every 5-star combatant, with the exception of Hidamari, the newest limited, Serenial, the first limited, and Diana, who is the current raid up banner. And they also, for the partner selector, contain every partner that is in the game that is 5 stars with a couple of exceptions. So you can't get Pekko, which is Serenial's, you can't get Sylvia, which is Hidamari's, and you can't get Sophia, which is Diana's. So basically, aside from the 2 limiteds and the most recent character, everything else is fair game, which is just mind-blowing. It is insanely generous. Like, thank you so much to the CZN team. This is a half-year anniversary. It's not even a 1-year anniversary, and it is more generous than almost any gacha game I've ever played for any event. And that, like, includes Epic 7. It's just, it's actually insane how much free stuff they are giving out during this event. Pretty much only, like, the Dash Pass from E7 kind of rivals this, and it's the same devs. So, again, thank you so much, devs. Just cannot thank you enough. Anyways, now that the selector has been expanded, if you clicked on this video, it's probably because you want to know, what now should I take with the expanded selector? So in this video, I'm going to break down every single 5-star combatant that you can take. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I feel about them, what their playstyle is like, what kinds of characters you might want to pair them with, and then I'll also show you their memory fragments that I think they're worth building on, as well as an example deck so that way you can kind of hit the ground running. And finally, I'll wrap up talking about them by saying whether or not it's worth actually taking their specific partner for them. If it's like, you know, kind of close to a 4-star, or there's comparable options, or I think it's just amazing value. All that stuff, we'll talk about it as well. It's going to be a long video, so use the timestamps. Before I jump in and talk about characters proper though, I do want to show you my general philosophy of how I'm ranking these characters. Now, as you see right here on your screen, this is my personal tier list for how I'm ranking characters in this video. And I just want to say up front, this is not a tier list for power level. Certain characters like Mei-Lin are extremely powerful in certain game modes, in certain scenarios. Like, she's one of the best characters in the game in those scenarios. What this tier list is meant to represent is the general use cases, the ease of use, the more likelihood you are to actually get value and play the character in a lot of scenarios. I primarily make guides for new and intermediate players, for free-to-play spenders and low spenders. I don't really make too many guides for like the ultra, like super hardcore, sweaty, top 0.01% of the ladder master players or the whales that are looking to E6 everything. I'll mention dupes here or there throughout the video if I think it's worth it. Spoiler alert, it's mostly everybody that's in that strong with the right team purple row. I think these are ones that are actually worth considering picking up dupes if you like those characters. But for the most part, I'm not going to sit here and talk about, like, is it worth it to get E6? I fundamentally think you should always take a character that you do not own, because the way that this dev team works, their track record, they will issue a buff at some point and a character will be absolute dog and they will lift it up to god tier status. It has happened so many times at Epic 7. I'm waiting for it to happen at some point in CZN. So it is better to always have a character that you know you do not own, because you don't want to be caught in a scenario where you don't actually have them. That's my fundamental opinion. You don't have to agree with that. If you want to chase dupes, you are more than welcome to. So anyways, let's talk about these tiers and how I feel about them. So this top tier is strong everywhere. These 4 characters I think are great on almost every single team in every game mode in the entire game. Like, hands down, these are like the easiest, most comfortable, most flexible characters in the roster. After that, we come to strong with many teams in many scenarios. These are characters that, like, you can play in a huge variety of teams in a huge variety of situations, but they might have like 1 or 2 game modes where they're not particularly super great. For example, Magna is probably like the worst 5-star in the game in Great Rift, but she's fantastic everywhere, which is kind of what keeps her out of being in that top tier. Strong with the right team in many scenarios. These are characters that are good in a lot of areas in the game, but they require a dedicated team. Once you have that dedicated team and you've kind of built that team around them, they're great in a lot of spots. And then that last tier are incredibly strong characters, but you have to be super dedicated to them, and they might only work with like one specific team in one specific game mode. Like you either have to just really, really want to force it and, you know, all in on the character to get the most value out of them. Otherwise, you might be better off just trying to reach for somebody who's a little bit simpler, a little bit more generic and usable in more spots. In case you're wondering, by the way, here is the tier list for the 5-star partners as well. That top tier is incredible for the characters that want it. So if you are thinking about picking up one of the characters that has this corresponding partner, these ones are all phenomenal in my opinion and absolutely worth the pickup. After that, there's good for the characters that want it. They are solid role players for those characters, but you could kind of take it or leave it, right? Like it would definitely help you if you had it, but it's not a make or break, right? It's not like redefining like some of the ones that are in the top. Comparable options, these are ones that are like obviously better than their 4-star counterparts or their battle pass counterparts, but they're like barely better. Like you won't really notice it that much. It's kind of like if you want it, you can take it. And then the last two there at the bottom, Mei-Lin and Kiara, just absolutely terrible active skills. I would not recommend taking them at all unless you just have all the other partners. And even then, dupes of certain characters, like for example, maybe like a Westmacott is actually worth a consideration, or like even like Marin might be worth a consideration over picking one of those. Anyways, let's move on now and talk about the characters proper. Again, use those timestamps to jump to whichever character you want to hear me yap about. So let's start with the first character, and probably the one that I would recommend most people take if they don't have her, and that is Veronica. Now, Veronica is just really good for one card in particular, and that's Repose, which you see on your screen here. It is a 0-cost draw 2, and with Divine Epiphanies, it could be a 0-cost draw 3 or a 0-cost draw 2 with 1 AP. It's probably just the best unique on any combatant in the game. It's just hyper efficient card draw. It's just a free +1 to +2 every single time you use it. Just the card advantage is just great. There's not a single character in the entire roster that doesn't benefit from having repos. And even then you have Sir Kowalski. Sir Kowalski is another draw 2. So the character just literally vomits out cards for basically next to no AP. On top of that, Firing Preparation means that she has guaranteed passive damage at the end of each turn, and you could customize that to be either AoE or strong single target for bossing scenarios. So yeah, you just get a passive damage dealer that puts up surprisingly good damage and a ton of free card draw that every single character in the roster can use. There's not a single team that Veronica doesn't slot on and won't feel really good. It doesn't matter what you're playing, whether that's Chaos, Sortie, General Farming, Great Rift, the character is going to always feel super, super good. As for her partner, Marin, I think it is a solid card because it is a way to draw, but the 4-star Rosaria is comparable, I feel like, some of the time. I still think Marin's better, but if you don't want to waste your selector, you want to use it on something that's a bit more specialized or high priority, I wouldn't fault you for that. Next up, we come to Narja, who is the girl that was on the background that you saw here at the start of the video. This is probably my favorite support to play in the entire game and one of my favorite characters overall. After playing Narja's Trauma Code, I think that she is one of the coolest characters in the entire roster. I really, really love this character. Narja is a support that does a little bit of everything. She has good healing, she has good buffs to her damage, she actually puts out solid damage herself, has good AoE, good burst heal. Pretty much the only thing that she really lacks overall is draw power, which is why you see with the example deck, I am just fervently chasing draw 1 epiphanies on everything to help circumvent that one major weakness that she has. If you could build Narja's cards with a bunch of draw 1 staple onto them, she is just absolutely incredible. She also is probably the best support in the game for multi-hit heroes like, say, a Chizuru, or if you want to play certain defense-based damage heroes such as Amir, then Narja is by far the best teammate for those characters. She's just super solid in a lot of scenarios. It would not surprise me if she ends up being like the best starting character for Swordy in the entire game. Also of note, the way that she heals Veracity is not a typical heal. It's essentially giving your whole team lifesteal, which means that it goes around certain boss mechanics like necrosis. She's basically the only healer that can get around some of these difficult boss mechanics. Like, you'll still be able to be topped off without incurring any penalties, and I think that that's just a super, super major upside for this character. As for her partner, Gaia, I think Gaia is nuts. I argue with some of my regulars about whether or not should Gaia be in the like top tier for the partners, and I think that it's absolutely worth it. For 3 ego points, you get a 4-hit attack, which procs her Veracity heal 4 times, and it could also crit if you build Narja as a bruiser. So it's a damage skill, it's a heal skill, and it also draws you an attack card, which is guaranteed to then proc Veracity again. So you basically get 5 mini heals, 4 attacks, and draw a specified card, all for 3 ego points, on top of Gaia just giving you a massive stat boost overall to Narja. I just can't imagine playing Narja without Gaia, but if you have the Battle Pass Nyx, that is a comparable option, so you might want to forgo it for that. Still, I think it's an incredible character and an incredible partner. Next up, we come to 9. 9 is probably, next to Veronica, the best overall character you could take with your selector. It's not really a secret that Season 2 of Chaos Zero Nightmare was the 9 show. This character is just super overtuned. Easily the best Vanguard character in the entire game. Easily probably the best damage dealer in the game as well. It's between her and the limited character Serenial. And there's a strong argument to be made she's probably the best tank in the game also. Like, this character is just super overtuned. And on top of that, her kit, based on the card Hue that you see on screen, it has 5 different versions. So she has 5 different playstyles that all work for various team comps in various different game modes. So she is super powerful, super flexible, and she is by far the easiest character to play in the entire game. You just play Hue and go nuts. The card Fighting Spirit allows you to play Hue if it's the highest cost card in your hand for only 1 AP instead of 3. And whenever you play Hue, you just get a stronger version back to your hand. So the character is quite literally just spam Fighting Spirit with your choice of Hue and go nuts. There's not really much else to say there. She does have a boss killing variant, which by the way, I'll mention here because this is a very popular version of how you build the character. The last one that I showed you was like just Ironclad or just general use that you can use for most playstyles. This is like the specialized, like, you know, Great Rift, like boss killing one that a lot of people use. It's a very, very small, compact deck that does a lot of damage. You boost up Fatal Strike with an exhaust support, get it to be 0, play it, unlock level 5 extreme from it the first turn, and then just go nuts, right? That's basically all you're really doing this. Again, 9, in my opinion, alongside Veronica, is probably the best, like easiest, strongest character that you can take from this selector. As for her partner, Alsea, I personally use it, but it's not like setting the world on fire. Like, you're just basically getting an active that gives you some extra vulnerable with a different name to kind of help you min-max your damage. But oftentimes, like, the actual static buff that you're going to be getting from a 4-star like Wilhelmina is comparable, if not slightly better, right? So Alsea, in my opinion, good partner, not one that you need to be jumping up for, though. Next up, last one I think here in this category is Tiphera. So Tiphera is, I believe, the second newest character you can get here on the roster. Tiphera is an incredibly flexible support that does almost everything. She has good healing, good shields, good damage buffing, good card draw, and also can be a main damage carry. And her damage is quite real, right? She's probably the hardest hitting support in the game, even harder than somebody like Narja, who puts up already impressive damage. This character just does everything, right? I don't think that there's a team that Tiphera slots on that isn't gonna work out really well. She's basically like a 5-star Mika that also has comparable buffing to somebody like Ray and also can do real damage. Like, that's just an insane value character. Like, I think probably overall she's the 3rd best one for your selector if you're looking for somebody to take. The big issue with Tiphera is that she has a learning curve to her. She's not very like easy to pick up Right, so if you're a newer player, this character might be a little bit confusing for you. Somebody like Nine or Veronica or Narja are very simple to play, in my opinion. They don't really require much understanding of the game, but this character has some very, very complex epiphanies and can get into some very long, like 5+ minute turns if you really, really want to go down that route. If you are looking to pick up Tiphera and want to learn the finer points, I recommend checking out my guide here on the channel. I don't want to waste too much time on it. Just know that she's a jack of all trades character and probably the best support in the entire game. As for the recommended partner, it is her twin sister, Tiana. Tiana is essentially just going to allow you to get extra AP per turn when you play her alongside of Tiphera. It's just going to allow you to draw your archetype cards, which are basically your buffs and your heals, more consistently, and also reduces the cost of further ego skills. It makes the character really comfortable to play, but just like with Narja, if you have Nyx, you could probably stick with that. I personally really like Tiana over Nyx on this character, but it's not like groundbreaking, which is why I'm not gonna, you know, be upset if you got to pass on this character. All right, so now we move into our second tier. These are the characters that are, you know, not usable everywhere. They might have like 1 or 2 hang-ups, right? Which is why they land here. So the first one we'll start with is Hugo. I think Hugo is the most slept on power character in all of Chaos Zero Nightmare. I think he is like borderline top tier. He is just super, super good. He has this card here, Hunting Instincts. It means that whenever someone on your team plays an upgrade or a skill, he gets Commence the Hunt stacks. Whenever anyone on your team uses a single target attack, including himself, he does a follow-up extra attack and spends 1 of those stacks. So essentially, you need to play him on a team that has a lot of skill cards, but if you do, he just gets a ton of free damage. And his cards, things like Quick Fix and Dingo Howling, are just reliable sources of card draw. So you get a character that has a super slim deck that draws a lot of cards for very, very cheap, that puts up very, very big numbers. And the only thing he asks of you is to play teammates that have a decent chunk of skill cards on their team. Again, I cannot stress this enough. I feel like if Hugo was a female character and was not like, you know, animalistic in terms of design, I think everybody would be playing this character. But because it's a male character, because he is a dog man, people just ignore him, and I think that that's honestly a crime. Like, if you've never tried Hugo, he is phenomenal. He is super, super good and very fun to play. As for his recommended partner here, Tina, this is the one that I'm personally going to be taking with my selector. It just overall increases Hugo's extra damage. He's the only one that can use it, and it also gives him a very, very, you know, cheap ego skill that gives card draw as well as even more damage amp. Just does everything that the character wants. If you're already playing Hugo and you want to push him to the fullest, Tina is definitely the pickup for your selector. After that, we come to Orlea. This is the character I'm going to be using my selector on, unless I get lucky and pull Orlea in the free 70 summons that we're going to be getting alongside this patch from the standard banner. I don't have much of a perspective on Orlea because I do not own this character. It's the only character in the game I have not played. As such, most of my opinions on her are formulated from watching regulars in my Discord server and in my community, as well as other content creators and them playing like harder content. Orlea, from what I gather, is a very slow, methodical support. She has a lot of heals, a lot of shields, but not much in the way of like card draw or AP generation. What she does have, though, is just insane buffs. And so if you could build a whole team around her, she can absolutely just make any character in the roster just do absurd amounts of damage and just basically allow you to play a super long game, which, you know, for things like Chaos, that's really good for grinding out bosses. It's very, very good for things like Great Rift, Nebula Distortion, Spiral Tower Screams. Like, that's just a good quality to have overall. She's not going to be like the support you reach for all the time, but the harder the content, the more likely Orlea is for you to want to actually slot her, and she still works even in those easier, more casual settings as well. That's kind of why I have her landing here. As for her partner, Noelle, it seems like it's a nice to have option. Like, it's comparable, if not slightly better than a lot of the 4-star options that you could take. But me personally, if you already have Nyx, which is the Battle Pass one, I would probably just stick with Nyx and skip Noelle. You're basically just activating your various different retains on your slimes in order to get more buffs, like more value for your team. Next up, we come to Magna, which is one of my favorite characters to play in the entire game. Most people put this character in like bottom tier for most of these selectors. And I just don't understand why. Because Magna, yes, she's arguably like the worst 5-star in the game when it comes to Great Rift, but she's one of the best 5-stars in the game pretty much everywhere else. Her kit is super flexible and super lean. As you can see on your screen, the example deck is mostly upgrades. This is effectively a 1-card deck. So she just slots into any team, can basically give you decent damage in terms of not only the amount she puts out, but by generating vulnerable for the team, which is a damage multiplier for anybody you pair with, but also reliable shields. She's gonna keep you protected while also putting up a lot of passive damage. And again, I cannot stress this enough. Super easy to play, works with everybody, works in all game modes. And as you can see, like I said, this super lean deck, this isn't even like the most efficient way to play her. This is just a lean deck that you could kind of sculpt and do whatever you want with. The only card I think is like core is this 2-cost ice fragment that deals AoE damage at each of end of your turns, because this can crit and basically turns out to be like a reliable like 1,000 to 1,500 damage at the end of every single turn to all enemies, which is super useful in a lot of game modes. And then from there, you can kind of specialize the character however you want. You can go for full damage on Iron Fist. You can go for vulnerabilities to make her kind of more of like a support damage hybrid. You could go for big shields. You can go for AoE. Ice Wall, the upgrade I think is the best one here, but you could dupe it and then use meditation to change it into an attack to make her an AoE DPS. You can change it into a super fat shield that makes her a like immovable wall versus bosses. So you have a lot of flexibility in how this character works. And with the Season 3 half anniversary patch, this character is getting something like 40 buffs across the board, and also counters, which are her primary damage source, are getting a 50% damage amp. I think Magna is one of the easiest, most fun characters in the entire game to pick up, and I cannot recommend her enough. Yes, I know she's never going to be that top 1% for the endgame content that people really care about, but for like Spiral Tower Screams, which is also hard endgame content, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised and when they realize how strong this character is in that game mode. As for her signature partner here, Erica, Wilhelmina gives you roughly the same, if not more, defense damage than Erica, but Erica does give you a boost to counterattack damage, so if you care about that, that's kind of it. I personally play Erica on Magna, and that's because I like the 2-cost AoE ego that refunds me some counter attack stance, but it's not like super amazing, right? It's not like a super amazing active. It's more that I just don't like Wilhelmina's active. I think it's kind of like whatever. It's just a small stat boost for the turn. I'd rather take the 1,000 AoE damage on the Erica's active for the same cost pretty much every time. Again, take it if you want it, but it's not really a high priority pickup. All right, and the last character here in this category is Rita, who is basically the newest character you can take on the Selector. Now, Rita, just like with Tiphera, has a pretty steep learning curve, so she's not going to be the easiest character for you to understand. I would, again, recommend checking out my guide on Rita to really understand how the character actually works. Essentially, you're going to be using this card, Chrono Archon, and whenever you spend AP, you will build up this Chronicle stack. When you pass your turn, your Chronicle gets converted to Chronal Ascension, which is essentially like an extra AP bar that only Rita can use. And the things that you can do with this are very interesting, which is why she ends up landing here. The build that's on your screen right now just allows you to free play a bunch of damage every single turn with her, so she kind of becomes like an off DPS that could support a team of like 9 in Tiphera, for example. But you could also use this free AP that you generate every turn to make her like a support for somebody like Haru or Kayron. You can also build her around her basic attack. She has some of the best basic attacks in the entire game. So you can play her alongside of other basic attack matters characters. Like you could play her alongside of Mei-Lin. I personally really enjoy playing her alongside of Chizuru and Rei. That's my preferred team to play her with. So she's very flexible and very good in a lot of content. She could even slot into, like I said, 9 Tiphera. Rita is one of the best like all-rounder teams in the entire game. It could clear most things pretty much for free, I feel like, at this point. So yeah, Doesn't go in every team and does have quite a steep difficulty curve, I feel like. But once you wrap your head around her, you'll realize, hey, this character does quite a lot in quite a number of scenarios, which is why she lands here. As for her partner, Ivy, it's just a stat stick. It just gives you a lot of extra damage on Rita, and the active skill just gives you even more of a damage amp. So if you just want to hit as hard as possible on Rita, go for it. But it doesn't do anything like super special or super unique, which is why I had it as one of the lower rated partners on the Selector. So now we move into the third tier. These are the strong characters that are good in a lot of spots, but only with the right playstyle and the right team setup. And we're gonna start with my favorite character in Chaos Zero Nightmare, which is Renoa. Renoa is a damage dealer that cares exclusively about two things. One, generating dirge bullets, and two, discarding them. Whenever she discards dirge bullets, she gets basically damage for free without spending any AP. So with the right setup, you could essentially just chain together dozens of attacks without really spending any AP, but it does require you to have specialized setups. You need to have characters like Diana, who is the current banner character as I'm recording this video, or like, say, the 4-star Nia. If you could assemble a full discard team, even something like Hidamari, the new banner character that's going to be live with the half anniversary, and Renoa along with Nia, that's going to be a really strong core that's going to allow you to basically free play out a ton of cards, get a ton of damage for free. Now, as for drawbacks for Renoa here, again, she's not like the hardest to play, but she's also not the easiest. You kind of have to wrap your head around the fact that you're not really here to try to spend AP on cards. You're just trying to find ways to get rid of cards out of your hand. And once you realize you're just passively generating damage by discarding, the character should feel a lot more intuitive, a lot easier to play. The other thing about Renoa is that as she generates more and more bullets, they go into your discard pile and then shuffle back into your deck, which can lead to some clunky draws. Now, an experienced Renoa player can absolutely find ways to mitigate this and get around it. One of the ways you could do that is by using the Ballad of Pitch Black, which is the version that I have here on the example deck. It will exhaust all the bullets in your graveyard, which should hopefully mitigate the amount of bullets that you're drawing every single turn. It's kind of like an out. Just make sure you use it like once every deck rotation and you should be good to go. Not have any real issues that way. This character is just easily the most fun character I feel like to play in all of CZN. It's between her or Diana. I absolutely love her and I cannot recommend playing her enough. Now, Renoa's signature partner, Kiara, I think is arguably the worst or the second worst partner you could take with your selector, so I wouldn't even bother. If you're watching this video as it airs, you have about a week to pick up Sophia, which is Diana's signature partner if you want to play Renoa. I think Sophia is easily Renoa's best partner. Otherwise, you could just stick with Yuri, which is the 3-star, which is also incredibly good at level 60 and max potential. Next up, we come to Rin. Rin is a character that's going to be getting a slew of buffs going into this half-season anniversary, so she's going to be significantly stronger, I think, than most people are giving her credit. Rin is a single target damage dealer that is incredibly selfish. What she wants to do is stack up a bunch of skill cards in her hand in order to use Dark Mist, Secret Art, Black Dance for maximum value. But to get max value on Dark Mist Dance, you have to stay in Dark Mist Dance, which you could only get through things like her basic cards, Drawing Slash, or some of the upgrades on Dark Mist Inner Art, which is one of the ones that you see here. As you can see at the start of your turn, gain Dark Mist Dance. As long as you have the stance and you have tons of skill cards in order to get extra hits on Black Dance, the character just pops off and puts up some of the highest damage in the entire game. In order to do that though, again, need teammates with a lot of skill cards, and also, you cannot play attacks other than Rin. Rin loses the stance whenever any other ally uses an attack card other than her, which means you want to play characters like a Mika or an Orlea or possibly even a Tiphera. You just want to play characters that never want to use attack cards whatsoever. They just want to have decks that are almost entirely skills and upgrades in order to support Rin and let her do her thing. She is incredibly selfish that way. Once you're in the stance, just get like 7, 8 skill cards in your hand, use Black Dance, and then use Dark Mist Secret Art Destruction, specifically the move one, to pull the Black Dance back to your hand and just loop it over and over and over again. That is her general playstyle. And the backup plan, of course, would be Dark Mist Secret Art Annihilation, which is the other attack card that you see there in the lower left-hand corner. Super fun character to play once you get everything set up and you have the proper team. But again, it has a little bit of a learning curve, and it's, again, a very selfish playstyle, so it's not going to be for everybody. As for her partner here, Scarlet, it is a pretty good damage amp overall for Rin. I think it is better now post-buff than something like Lilium, but it doesn't have the card draw active, so Lilium might be better for some of you, but I still think Scarlet is worth a pickup after the post-buffs, after the extra attack that it gives, and the higher base stats as well. Next up, we come to Khalipe. Khalipe is a kind of pseudo AoE damage dealer slash tank hybrid. She's very, very akin to Magna. I feel like they have a lot of overlap. Khalipe is also pretty terrible in Great Rift, but usable pretty much everywhere. The reason I have Khalipe here in the lower tier and Magna higher in the upper tier is Magna is very self-sufficient. She doesn't ask for anything in order to do her thing in any team composition, whereas Khalipe is built around the Celestial mechanic, which is that you get to play any of the cards that have Celestial as a keyword for free whenever you play a card that costs 2 or more. As such, in order to get max value out of Khalipe, you want to be playing her alongside of characters like Kayron or 9 or Haru, characters that have very high AP cost cards, so that way she can cheat the cost of her cards and play them for free. As such, her teams are slightly more limited than Magna. But basically, the core card here that you're going to be focusing on with Khalipe is Vulture Ejection. It's a 3-cost card that could be either an AoE attack, a shield for the whole team, or somewhere in between. It's a very flexible skill with a lot of great epiphany options. After that, you have some pseudo card draw and cards like Rally, and you could specialize it to draw things like getting Celestial cards or highest cost cards. You could get cheap draw, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of ways you could kind of customize how you want to play her. You could build her, again, full tank, full damage, or somewhere in between. All she asks is that you play some number of cards on your team that have 2 or higher costs in order to be more consistent and successful. Now, as for her partner Zeta, I think this is also one of the best ones that you can pick up. Just straight buffs across the board for everything Khalipe cares about for the passive. Active skill is a very, very cheap card draw skill that will help make your decks more consistent, make the playstyle and the teams that she's on much more consistent. I think it's one of the best partners you could take, especially if you're a Khalipe enjoyer. Next up, we come to one of my favorite characters, probably my top 3 favorite characters in the entire game, in Yuki. Yuki is incredibly popular for 2 big reasons, which we're not going to talk about here in this video. She's super cool and one of the most fun characters to play. Essentially, she just draws a whole mess of attack cards. They get cost reduction, and she just plays them all out for free. Like, if you just want to draw a lot of cards, play a lot of attacks, then this is the character for you. Unfortunately, the community seems to think that this character isn't particularly good, and I understand why they have that sentiment. So you see, Yuki doesn't really do a lot of damage per attack. She's essentially a death by 1,000 cuts character. And so when you compare her to somebody like 9, who can just play 1 hue and out-damage Yuki's entire turn for just 1 card, it feels like, why would you want to play this character? Why is it worth the effort? Because it's fun. And I think that the character in situations like Chaos, where there's lots of enemies, is pretty good because she's primarily an AoE specialist. Yes, 9 with Massacre is like comparable, if not slightly better, but this character is still pretty good, I feel like. I feel like this is like a really slept on character, and again, I can't stress it enough. Incredibly fun, right? If Renoa and Diana are the 2 most fun characters, this is probably number 3 for me. As for how you kind of like play her here, you're trying to get Prepare to Subdue with Inspiration, draw 1, so that way you can kind of get a bunch of draw 2s, and then you want to map out your attack layout in such a way that the number of attacks that you're going to be drawing on Prepare to Subdue is essentially equal to the number of attacks in the deck. So as you can see here, I have 2 basics, 2 flash slashes, an iceberg cleave, and then a throwaway attack in Winged Humanoid Beast. It could be whatever you want in that last one. That's 6 attacks. If I'm inspired on Prepare to Subdue, I should be getting 6 attacks basically every single time I cycle through my deck. I should be able to throw out 6 attacks all the time. It's super, super good. That said, Yuki really wants dupes. I will say that right now. Like E2 on Yuki is definitely a major pickup. It makes her a lot easier to play, a lot more, like the quality of life changes are just super, super big. So if I was going to recommend a character you chase dupes on, Yuki is definitely that character. I think at E0 you could still make her work, but I don't think she's going to be as good as she could be. She's going to feel potentially lackluster if you don't have the right cards, the right setup. Still, when she pops off, she feels super, super good. And again, I think she puts up a lot more damage than people are giving credit. I've basically cleared everything in the game with Yuki, and I've even gotten some of my master stickers with Yuki on one of my teams. So I think that this character is better than most people are giving her credit. As for the partner, Westmacott. I think this is one of the best partners you could take with your selector as well, especially if you want to play Yuki. It's just cheap card selection. You're essentially going to bin a card from your hand to draw 2 of Yuki's cards, and it's on a very cheap cost and gives quite a nice boost to your overall damage. I don't think I can imagine playing Yuki without Westmacott. This might be the most used partner for me, aside from Nyx, pretty much on my entire account. I love, love, love Westmacott, and again, I cannot fathom playing Yuki without her. And now we come to the last tier. These are, again, the really strong characters that are kind of specialized, but might be a bit more one note, or might have a higher difficulty curve, or, you know, might only work with like one team in one area. And so we'll start with Mei-Lin. And I know I'm going to get roasted again in the comments because I got roasted on the last video as well. Mei-Lin is an incredibly strong character. She's one of the best boss killers in the entire game. And that is thanks to this card, Rising Dragon Spire. As you can see, next, what it says 200% damage, next passion card used, 1 extra hit. So basically for every single passion card, every single red card you play, so all Mei-Lin's cards, all Veronica's cards, Maribel's cards, Diana's cards, whichever red characters you have on your team, Hidamari, you count up all of those that you play in a turn, then you drop Rising Dragon Spire and you get essentially an extra copy for every single one of those red cards. If you play Magic the Gathering, she's just Storm. Rising Dragon Spire is just the card Grape Shot. It's a 2-cost card. You get a copy of it for every red card you played that turn. So essentially, you're just gonna buff up your Mei-Lin, and you're gonna loop her basic attack Strike using Unity of Attack here and Defense. You use the move version of the Epiphany, and you just go nuts, try to get like 10 to 20 attacks in a turn, then play a Rising Dragon Spire and one-shot the boss. It's super fun. It's super flashy. It's very, very powerful, but that's kind of it, like, for me. I know that she has the passion weakness, the weakness attack from her upgrades, and people say that makes her really good in Chaos, but I've never found that to be the case. I've always found that there are other easier to play characters or more effective characters for clearing Chaos, so I never really reached for Mei-Lin there. I only really reached for her as a boss killer, and because of how strong the combo is and how good Serenial is as a character, the bosses have been kind of hard targeting Mei-Lin to make sure that she can't one-shot as many bosses. They try to put like mechanics in place to target her specifically to make her less effective. So it's a character that I'm not reaching for all the time in Chaos, and she's basically in the crosshairs, excuse me, she's basically in the crosshairs there of the dev team. They're just gonna be hard focusing on her. Like, so I know that there are dedicated fans out there, people that love her, and if you like her and you want to pick her up because you think she's rad, that playstyle sounds awesome to you, go for it. It's just hard for me to recommend this character to the masses, knowing that it's like a one use case character that's getting hyper targeted by the dev team. As for her partner, I'm going to recommend you just stick with the 4-star Lillian, because her partner Marianne is just absolutely terrible. Probably the worst 5-star partner in the entire game. Needs a total rework. Next up, we come to the man, the myth, the legend, Kayron from Epic 7. Kayron is a very, very hard-hitting character. He is capable of putting up some of the biggest damage numbers in the entire game. The problem is that he has a steep learning curve, and he is kind of clunky in some spots. His entire gimmick is that he creates futility, which are these essentially useless cards that cost 1 action point, and it's your responsibility to figure out how to get them out of your deck. You can either turn them into heals, you could turn them into damage, you could sacrifice them for buffs or a card draw, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of ways you could spend utility, but it's not exactly intuitive, and in things like Chaos, if you don't know what you're doing, you might have a really hard time with this character. That's basically why he lands here. It's not that he's a bad character per se. It's just that sometimes you'll get hands where there's nothing you can do and you outright die in a lot of content. And it's going to take some time for you to learn how to get around those like pitfalls and really learn the ins and outs of the character. Additionally, Oath of Vanity, which I have two versions here in the example deck, one for draw, the other is just essentially a way to get damage and healing. Many versions of this, it's a skill that you have to draw, and you might not have it in the hands that you have futility, so it kind of bricks. And the Oath of Vanity that's here is the only one with initiation. He's kind of like a character like Veronica or Hugo or Nine, who relies on a specific card, and for some reason the devs just don't make it consistent for him. I think with a couple of quality of life tweaks, Kayron could be one of the best standard characters in the entire game. This is another character, by the way, that scales incredibly hard with dupes. So if you want to be like a Kayron main, this is a character that might be worth considering picking up a couple of dupes for. Just, yeah, great character, just steep learning curve and inconsistent, which is why he lands here. As for his partner, Bria, from all of my friends and, you know, regulars who actually do play Kayron, they always tell me Bria is mandatory for the character. It's just, it's an insane damage amp for him. Why would you ever play Kayron without Bria? So I'm just heeding their advice and throwing her up here as a recommended for your selector if you really want to play Kayron. She's not really good for anyone else in the roster. Next up, we come to Luke. Luke is, in my opinion, like next to Yuki, Renoa, Diana, like the next most fun character. Like the just super, super fun character. His playstyle is essentially every time you crit, he generates handgun bullets, and the handgun bullets are just free attacks that you can use however you want. You could focus fire someone, you could spread it out and make it kind of like a pseudo AoE. And then after that, you're just trying to either make sure that you have a steady stream of bullets every turn, or use something like Dance of the Demon and finish a round after a long turn with a ton of bullet attacks to, you know, rake in a bunch of free extra damage. That's kind of his general playstyle. You just get to play a lot of cards, do a lot of things in one turn, and it feels super, super good. Now, the reason why Luke is here is because his damage is a lot lower than many other characters, so you're gonna have to work a lot harder to get results with him compared to other characters. Additionally, his playstyle is very similar to Serenial, the original limited for CZN, and I feel like Serenial kind of outclasses him in a lot of spots. And just like with Mei-Lin, the devs have Serenial in their sights and are hard targeting her playstyle, making it harder for her to succeed in a lot of content in order to try to bring her power level down. And as a result, unfortunately, that just makes Luke have to work even harder than he already does in order to find success. Still, don't let that stop you from picking up this character. He is super, super fun. CZN, I don't know about you guys, but it's a game that I play for fun first and foremost. And Luke, to me, is a very, very fun character, which is why I would still recommend him, even though I have him here kind of like in the least desirable tier. As for his partner, Janet, phenomenal stat stick. Just really, really good partner overall. Incredible boss, both passive and active. She's obviously the best partner for Luke, but also works for pretty much all the other bullet characters of the game. His brother Lucas, Renoa, hell, even Diana can potentially get in on the action. Very, very strong partner. One of the best ones I would recommend picking up with your selector. Next up, we come to Haru, which is a character I'm just now learning kind of how to play. If you really want to learn how to play Haru to her fullest, I would recommend checking out friend of the channel, Cosmic Gaming. I will link his channel down in this video's description. Haru is essentially like a cute bruiser. You just have this cheerful schoolgirl that wants to hit you with a big ass anchor for a lot of damage, and you just want to keep doing that because every time you play her anchor shot, it gets stronger up to a maximum of 10 times for the fight, and then you use things like Anchor Pointer to give it retrieve or pull it out of the discard pile and do it over and over and over again. She's very one note, but hey, she makes big numbers and that's all some people care about. So if you just want to see this girl hit for big numbers, that is the character that you play, or this is the character you pick. That said, she just doesn't have the use cases that like a character like Nine has, and Nine probably out damages her, which is why I think she kind of lands here. Like, she's probably a lot better than my placement of her suggests. It's just that, again, there's probably easier characters for you to reach for, but if you want to play her, you like her design, I would definitely consider picking her up. I've been, again, learning her right now, and I've been having a lot of fun with her. As for her signature partner, Asteria, it's fine. Like if you just want to hit even harder with Haru, you pick it up. That's pretty much the name of the game here with this partner. Next up, we come to Chizuru, which is a very awkward to play character, but still very fun once you actually figure out how to get her working. Essentially, how Chizuru works is that she wants to mark targets with Cursed Shackles in order to build up Will-O-Wisp stacks, and those stacks essentially turn into the card Shadow of the Moon, and when you generate enough cards of Shadow of the Moon, they merge together to make one big super mega attack. So you just want to kind of mark a target, hit it a bunch of times, build up a big Shadow of the Moon, and then just let it rip for big damage. And the way that most people play this character is the one you see on your screen now. They just add a bunch of hits to Shadow of the Moon and try to get like a 40 or 50 card attack and then just try to just go nuts and full send it on one target. The thing is, that's the same kind of playstyle that the devs are targeting with Mei-Lin and Serenial, so it's less than desirable. So instead, I'm going to recommend this build that you see on your screen. This is the one that I personally play, and I think it is an absolute blast, especially if you're going to play it with characters like Rei or like Rita, like characters that care about basic attacks whatsoever. Essentially, you make a bunch of cheap, free basic attacks, go nuts, spam out a bunch of little hits, and then, you know, get like maybe like one solid hit in with Shadow of the Moon. Is it the best? No, but it's super fun. Again, these are, I think, the two ways you can play her. Lots of little hits or try to stack up one big hit. Pretty much just pick your poison. I will say, though, Bound at Dusk, which is one of her signature cards, is a very polarizing card. Because once you play it, it kind of makes your AP gain for characters like Chizuru not the best. Like, you can't gain AP on her card specifically. So it might end up being a kind of a feels bad. They've patched it to make it more friendly, but some people still kind of hate that card and hate that mechanic. So again, your mileage may vary. So again, like other characters in this tier and others we mentioned in the video, kind of a learning curve. Not the most intuitive character to play, but hey, unique playstyle and very, very fun. As for her partner, Itsuku, I don't think it's very good. It's just a stat stick, and the ego skill, even though it's like 3 ego points, they made it go from 4 to 3. It still just doesn't feel as impactful as a lot of other ego skills out there. So again, if you want to hard commit to Chizuru, you can take it, but I think it's one of the lower ranked ones, at least in my personal opinion. And yeah, let's see. That about does it, right? I guess Chizuru is the last one. So yeah, there you have it. Probably like what, 50 minutes give or take to cover all of the combatants in the game. Whew. Yeah, hopefully that was of some help to you. If you still have questions, you can let me know down in the comment section below. Or you can hit me up on Discord, linked in the video's description. I am usually in there. You can tag me in general chat or DM me, or you can even check out my CZN builds that I have posted in a dedicated channel there as well. And you can also check me out live by subscribing to the channel and checking the live tab. It will be live later tonight once season 3 goes live with the half-year anniversary. Come by, say hi, should be a load of fun. And I should be streaming pretty much most days for the rest of the week for the first week of season 3. So again, you could stop by there, again, either on the YouTube channel here on the live tab or over on my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/IM_TSU. Hopefully I'll see you there. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of the week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.